My name is Karsten. I'm here with Jean. We're from Lean 42, and you are watching or listening or tuning in either live or of a recording of our Lean 42 live session at LinkedIn. Jean and I were CIO advisors in Europe and North America, and our discussions here at LinkedIn or at our Lean Academy, wherever you watch this, is really for IT and enterprise architecture leaders, practitioners, and bringing the community together, but also bringing the gap between business, strategy, IT, execution, those areas together. Today we will have like an informal discussion with two great experts in the field, and we will get to know a little bit about their thoughts and their thought leaders. So we're very happy to have Anthony and Russ here with us. But we also do have upcoming events like this once a month, I think is what we've scheduled them. So we have Winnie Kuhn, Brian Cameron, Stefan Malich, different other thoughts leaders on this show. So tune in and watch out for the next shows as well. So Jean, tell us a little bit more about the guests that we have today.
So the two characters you guys are going to be talking to today are Anthony and Russell, and they are the authors of a book, actually a really good book, which is called The Heart and Brain of Your Business, Enterprise Architecture. Oh, there you go, Role of Enterprise Architecture and Engineering. And I've known Anthony for a while. He stellar background, director, chief of architecture for New York City. He was with Computer Services Corporation, with IBM. And I'd say probably the last 5 or 10 years, you've been pretty much with the DoD, right? Or the government.
I've had my own company, and but primarily working DoD and federal agencies.
And then Russ worked, I don't know if you knew this, Russ, but you and I were both at Bearing Point at the same time.
Oh, is that right? No, I didn't know that.
We were both as senior managers at Bearing Point. You were on the East Coast in public services, and I was on the West Coast in financial services.
Oh, yeah. That's why our paths didn't cross, yeah.
Well, I never go near the government, so there you go. Anyway, and then you were also with Deloitte and also very much involved with working in DoD and the government. So
yes.
Welcome, and thank you guys for joining us. Karsten and I are just kind of I think we're getting this a little bit more comfortable in doing these, but the whole idea is that in our network, we find people like you guys who have either written books or are definitely leaders in the field and definitely transforming enterprise architecture. And we just want to highlight things like your book and highlight the stuff that you guys do, because I think lessons learned and answering questions for other people, sharing that knowledge is part of being an EA, right? So, but anyway, I did want to start out with talking a bit about your book. So the approach, I think, was to document business, to document the business.
Or have them explain it.
Well, yeah. Okay. What was the purpose of your book?
Actually, you're on a good point, Jean. It was actually to show, this is one thing. Number one, that, people talk about needing a bridge between business and IT. And that's only if you perceive them to be islands. I never did, right? So, and people, I don't want to say everybody, people struggle with the E word, the A word, sometimes the F word, framework. So basically in the book and in those early chapters of the book, I just tried to refer to it as documenting business operations. That's what it is to me. It's about your business. And yes, of course, there's the IT. And by the way, this is just on the precipice of a gig we're doing for the Business Architecture Guild. We're going to be presenting in March.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Summit.
Yeah, we're
Great.
flying over to see you.
Oh man, great.
Good.
And what I wanted to say is,
Oops, we lost voice.
I did this bar chart, and it's a bar chart of all the elements of an enterprise. One of the things we documented in the book, and the graphic wasn't really that good, but it's the periodic table of elements or building blocks of an enterprise. You can't see it over here, but right to my left are the building blocks of buildings. I have blueprints everywhere because I prefer to actually architect houses. Anyway, you need to understand, 2x4s, 2x6s, block, 10-inch block, right? The specs of those block. Anyway, you need to understand the building blocks of an enterprise. And the point that I wanted to make is I did one pie chart, which is one of the charts that Russ likes very much. And it shows that 80+% of all the building blocks are business related.
Right.
80 plus, only 14% they're IT.
Huh.
I don't want to,
Yeah.
It's almost like, who cares?
No. So,
No,
hey,
I didn't say that.
So
so
I
who's
wanted
the
to
audience? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Russ.
Yeah, I just wanted to add about the book is, a lot of this from my experience, especially with consulting. You spend a lot of, all my gigs were about standing up a practice or applying this EA to where the project was. When we look at the books that are out there in the market that me and Anthony even use, it's about modeling or these elements or these views or et cetera, et cetera. And that's when we came up with the idea, we need a book on the management, using architecture for management. That's your blueprint of how to move yourself through a business to be successful. So I just want to let the audience know this is not how to model book. This is how to use EA to manage your business and to grow and be successful. So
Yeah, actually, that was another big theme, putting the architecture to use.
Right.
And we can talk about one example right now. Real example.
Like based on your experience, what is kind of like, do you see as the biggest hurdle to put EA to use, as you kind of like frame it?
Oh, that's an interesting one.
Yeah,
We
to
didn't
me
say
it
it was
hasn't.
going to be easy.
Well, to me it hasn't changed. It's still executive buy-in,
Leadership.
I've been doing this for a while, and I have noticed, unfortunately, the last two projects I'm on, it's getting softer. It's like it's getting traction. And I'm sitting there going, why is it taking it so long for executives to see the value of applying EA? But anyway.
You know what's interesting though, Russ and everybody, we're on a gig right now, and we're contracting through a particular company. Actually, Russ is now an employee of the company, and there are some true leaders in that company. One of them is a 10-year veteran of MITRE, and he's embraced this whole concept completely.
Yeah, he gets it. Yeah, he gets it.
Absolutely. So I wanted to say one of the other problems, a corollary, once you get over that hurdle, is to get the practitioners to start working together. Russ's job, in effect, is to establish a well-oiled machine, right? And right now, we're not there because so many of these people, we have 40 people on the program, and they're all very smart people, great people, good-spirited people, but they don't have that formal background, right? Formal methods, right? I didn't talk about it in the book, but appropriately so, Russ just said, the book's really not about modeling, right? But one of the points is, these people have all these varying backgrounds, no formal methods. So like, they talk about a particular deliverable, right? But when I talk about an OV5A, they don't know what it is. And I know those DODAF names are terrible, 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 but they have meaning, so much meaning behind them. You can go to the DODAF volumes, right? There's 3 volumes, and you can read about what is an OV5A. And it's precise. I love that precision.
Great.
Yeah, I don't think we have that in in the private world of EA, corporate. But that's one thing the government always had over EA, plus the fact that I think they were responsible for driving it. Good
So
example.
in summary, though, the hurdles are leadership and then having a well-oiled machine. It takes time to create the well-oiled machine, right? It's like when you go into a gas station, the mechanics have been working together for years. They know how to work together, right?
Yeah. So
If,
being ex-military, it's all about the, military. We're all structured, sometimes too rigid.
Yeah.
But structure, we got those standards, so we know what we need to do, and we know what we should get.
Yeah, Jean right now learns the military time that we use in Germany. So
Actually, I'm not learning it. So there you go.
1600 is what we have right now.
That's
But
right.
one thing, because we do have a bunch of guests joining us live, if you type comments or questions in the chat, we can also show them here for everybody to see, and we can respond to those. So whenever somebody online has a question, feel free to just paste it in the chat. Meanwhile.
Okay.
Sure. So I was going to ask real quickly, now I've been promoting your book. I mean, I spoke at a conference last year, and my ending slide was your book. But who is the audience for this book? Who did you write this for?
For the executives to understand how important the architecture is as a repository, right? It is the heart and brain of your business. As an example, right? Where are measures and metrics born? In the architecture, right? The process people, right? They develop those things, and they're in the architecture. And we know in the architecture exactly which information systems provide the data for capturing the measurements, right? And in this API-driven world, it's easy for the architecture then to just go out to those systems. Hey, give me those numbers, right? You were 6 feet yesterday. How tall are you today? That kind of number.
Yeah, Anthony, exactly right. That was our focus. There's plenty of books out there for the practitioner. There's plenty, but we wanted to hit a gig we just rolled off of, the acquisition manager, the portfolio manager. We want to get into those business people. We're trying our best to start reaching, and we want to get that CFO, the CEO, to get a hold of these books to see how these are tools they can use to grow and manage their business.
Another related topic is how do you structure an organization, right? And I learned this from the federal government's Practical Guide to Federal Enterprise Architecture. In effect, they say that all of these C-level officers, CIO, CTO, CSO, they should basically report to a chief architect. We kind of have that wrong, right? Don't we? It's like, the CIO is over there and the CDO is over there doing something, his own thing, right? And the CSO is over there. And you know what? They have to coordinate, right? And the chief architect, in my mind, is that person and that organization that makes sure that these guys and gals are talking to one another, the information's together.
Yeah. So what do you think is a key capability or skill set that the chief architect needs to have for that facilitation or for that role?
That's a good rush. You want to?
Well, I think this personally, lessons learned, is the soft skills. Like Anthony said, you gotta, when I'm on a project and I'm just it's just so easy to run. But then you get on a project and you got 10 architects, you really see your weakness in your soft skills. And I think that's the biggest thing the chief architect has to have is not only got to pull your architects together so you're all rowing together, but you also have to communicate your message to the seaboard. So they understand that what you're doing is the right thing to do, and they understand where their money's going and the value of that.
Another thing, I guess, just in terms of business, is having having a number of years experience and knowing how businesses are structured, right? I think, like what is an operating unit versus a non-operating unit, right? What is an organization that has profit and loss versus just a back office function or organization that has overhead, right? So many architects that we work with today, they're just not there. They're dealing with ports and links and
Well,
yeah.
and
So
sometimes you can make the back office also a profit unit, like we've all seen with like Amazon Web Services, which was kind of like first a pure IT function and back office, and then they realized, hey, this is a service that we can like actually make public available and put it into a profit unit.
Absolutely, and you just have to have that vision, right? So that's a soft skill, right? Definitely.
Yep.
To be able to do that, which you just said is amazing, right? To be able to take something that was traditionally perceived as back office. Maybe ADP is another example of that, right? Payroll was originally perceived as back office.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one of the skills that architects need to realize is where they can use EA, because those are good examples. You know, you got to get to know that cloud sector. You need to know the financial sector, like when I don't know about overseas, but this technology business management framework came out. That's a good thing for EA to rub against, because you can then show people, if you use your architecture, you can break out those costs. You use your architecture, it can help you do your cloud planning and migration, etc. You use your architecture, you're able to do that fee for service type of concept with some confidence.
So on the book, and Anthony and I spoke about this a couple months ago of writing a book and how hard it is and what it takes. And I spoke to Wendy Kuhn, who also just released her book, and she went off to an island for 3 months to finish hers up. So, but
I wish.
yeah. So what did you edit out of this book? There's a lot of really good stuff in the book, but what did you edit out?
Oh, it was too much of the low-level thinking, and also the mathematics. I had to remove some of that. To me, a model of an enterprise is a mathematical graph, and if you have two, right? If I have a model of one business and it's really doing well, right, and you have a model of another one, and you know that they're mathematical graphs, you can compare them. Simple as that. But I had to downplay it, right? Who wants to hear about mathematics? Oh my God.
Especially with the audience of management.
We took that out also, and then we also this got too big of a book when we described EA and how to use it in business. But again, your EA needs that structure, so we're calling it a framework. So we didn't. That's book 2, because that's just another book on how to apply. You got to put everything in a file drawer, and then apply how to use that to answer your questions. So that's kind of our idea for moving forward. But we couldn't put all that together into one. It just got too big.
Gene, on that subject, though, editing out or just editing down, the whole second half of the book is rather tedious, because it's about the meta model, really, which is ingrained in my brain. One of the problems, I'm going to be honest, one of the problems that we have in this field is that people create these arcane and unintuitive models, right? They don't speak in terms of the business, right? How many models do you know have a first order object called business, operating unit or non-operating unit? Or how many business architectures deal with a merger? I have a merger artifact. You can document it, right? And you can say that this merger was initiated by this company, and here's the other company that was involved in it. So
we do
edit that down. Go ahead, Russ.
Well, we got a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. Yeah, we got a question in from Gordon Cooper. What have you seen as the top 3 or 5 or 2, whatever, concerns for CIOs these days? And how are you seeing EAs, like the chief architects or enterprise architects, are addressing those concerns? Start with that.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, well, I personally, I don't monitor the CIOs or whatever. I just read Gardner or Meta or our dog. I just read, let them do the work and see where the trends go. But I can go from my personal experiences as a consultant hire. So I'm going to go where the need is, and it really hasn't changed over years. They have duplicate systems, so they're tired of spending all this legacy money for duplicate work. So that's still a top concern, is the migration, and then putting in a new system. The last 10 years, my livelihood has been, we want to centralize into this system. So, architects can eat off the plate a long time, because that doesn't seem to be dying down any. But there's aspects of that, is it the cloud? Is it this or is it that? As the industry trends change, but EA is the foundation. No matter what the shiny penny is, EA is the foundation to give you that answer. When it talks about the value, I've been a big believer of tying EA into your costs, because if you use that structure and actually what it is, you can show where you're spending your money, where you're bleeding, how you can save money, how you can reduce cost, etc. And there's
So,
also the improved customer experience. And that's very important, because that's going to bring back customers.
so I would say, in a positive sense, the top 3 to 5 concerns should be business models, right, and how they affect profit, right, and then the expense side of the equation, and facilitating a good expense to revenue ratio. In a negative sense, I think one of the issues is to stay away from operations. I see way too many CIOs that are being asked to oversee operations. Like, is the email system up? Does the CIO care? Come on.
He cares if it's down.
That's
It
I guess
depends.
a bit of my IBM background, because we had the luxury in the CIO office of not having to worry about operations. There was another group.
True. I think we discussed this I think in December on like CIO priorities, but we also see the security, like zero trust security, being like one of the top concerns these days.
Yeah.
Also, like the whole metaverse, virtual reality, augmented reality is, and like not in all organizations, but in a bunch of organizations also, like an innovation topic for CIOs. And of course, enterprise architects come in and address those, and also link those trends or those topics that are like top of the mind of the business or the CIO with the whole operations. Should, like you just mentioned, with like the heart and the brain, it's kind of like really knowing how does it impact my capabilities, my business model, my technology, and having that holistic view really to support those concerns. It's at the end, of course, there's quantifying value in that as well, but I think it really is like addressing those concerns with a holistic view.
Well, I think digital transformation
Yeah.
is huge. I mean, every CIO that I've been talking to over the last 3 months, first thing out of their mouth is, we're in transformation. We're in digital.
That's
We don't
kind of
have
what
a
I meant.
digital strategy.
Yeah.
We don't have it in our IT strategy. Doesn't align with our business strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
So
the infrastructure is falling apart. Their system was built in 1990, and it just can't
yeah,
keep up anymore. And that's
yeah.
what I meant about architects can eat off the plate for a long time, because everybody's either transferring to something,
Mhm.
and that's where EAs come in. And I like that zero trust thing, because I've just talked to people that zero trust came around and just do it, and then they struggle. But you apply your architects to your team. Now you get those process flows and who connects where, and um, what phase is this going to happen in, however you structurally want to break it down according to your architecture. They seem to become a lot more successful.
True.
Any other questions out there? Did we miss, or did we
Not
answer that?
Yeah, I think so. If there's anything else you would like us to expand on, Gordon, just type in again. The other thing, a question, kind of like we're here in Europe, so of course Gene goes back and forth between North America and Europe, but we've also seen sustainability, social responsibility as like a big topic, and like the whole ESG reporting. There's like lots of requirements for even the board level to report on sustainability efforts. Have you come across that as well? Is that kind of like a topic where you have seen kind of like the EA chime in as well, or not yet?
It's a big topic, but I haven't been focused on it personally. Going back though, and talking about the value of EA and the level of focus. One of the things that I did, and it was with KPMG actually, we developed executive level capability models. They fit on an 11 by 17 page, each one. And they did 11 industries. They did a fantastic job. And we did 3 overlays for that. One was revenue enhancement. The other one was cost optimization. And then the other one was federal regulatory compliance. So that's a real big one, the regulatory compliance, right? And we did those as heat maps. They were very well received.
That'd be interesting to see those.
Are you showing in the upcoming webinar some of those heat maps, graphics, pie charts that you mentioned?
I have to warn you, though, heat maps can be dangerous because, if they're too busy, it's like, oh, nice Christmas tree.
But I see, speaking of that subject, to me, that's, well, we're close to the fire, so we're pushing that trend. But I'm a believer that's where EA needs to go. I call it visualization. That's sustainability. You have all this EA, and so what? I believe you gotta use your EA. I call it storytelling. So so what? You have a capability model. What are you going to use it for? Well, you got to tell a story.
Mm-hmm.
What's your story? You have 15 systems that do this one capability. You ought to start asking yourself some questions. Well, anyway, visualization, and Anthony said heat map, but I call it a dashboard. But they got this neat thing. This is not my expertise, but they got these neat things out there. Like I hear the word quick and whatever is out there, but you're able then to take your architecture data and actually visualize these stories in front of the CEO or CFO of whatever story they want to hear at that time.
So on that subject,
I think
we're kind of. Oh, sorry, go ahead. On that subject, we've kind of gone from static models to analytics, and people realize that EA is
analytics,
business intelligence and analytics. And then, like Einstein, we're going to introduce the 4th dimension, time. A slider bar to take the viewer through time. Did you see your enterprise 3 days ago, 10 years ago? Let me show you today. And this is real. This is possible.
Yeah.
I did it in 2005.
Yeah, because we've been playing around with it. Like, you could, like, we took all our operational activities, and then we have how we loaded all our systems, and then you sit there, and then it doesn't matter if it's bars or bubbles, or that's the beauty. You can get creative with it. And you're sitting there and you're showing your CIO, look how many systems you have supporting one operational activity.
And
You ought
that's
to be
not a,
asking
that's not
yourself
a
the
diagram.
questions there, buddy. Yeah.
So that's not a diagram of systems. That's a bar chart.
Yeah. But it visualizes to the decision maker, what's going on using your architecture.
Well, I think that comes
information
back
today.
to a lot of the tools that are out there, Lean IX and some of the others that, they provide visualizations that we didn't have 5 years ago. We were still stuck in
Right.
Visio and PowerPoint,
Correct.
But now you can, you have the data, you can put in
Right.
attribute on a piece of data, and all of a sudden you can, you can actually be transparent with the architecture, which in my opinion is huge. And I think that's one of the pluses of being able to visualize your architecture, is to communicate across that bridge to the business, right?
And
right.
on this subject, the architecture, it becomes a source of knowledge about what the enterprise was, what the business was over time, right? In perpetuity, right? It's not a PowerPoint designed to get one person through their business day. Who cares?
Right.
Who cares about that person?
But that brings it back to your original, one of your first questions about skills. Well, now I'm kind of backpedaling here. That's it, because like I said, this isn't my area of expertise, because I'm too old. But these new kids are coming out, know your EA, but that's the market to get into. Also know that data visualization piece, because you're going to be very marketable if you can say, yes, I can model, but I can also visualize this data.
And then tell a story with it, as you mentioned earlier. I think that's kind of like important, because that's where people can make the connection and really like drive the decision, and not just have like a nice flashy visualization, but the story with it really like takes it further.
Yeah.
So we're coming up here to kind of like our half hour. Any final questions or anything else you want to share with us?
Just real quick question. If there's one takeaway from your book, I know my takeaways, but what would be the takeaway from your book?
Put the architecture to use. So architects are great at designing a particular system, engineering a particular system, but they're not very good at putting that architecture to use. And putting it to use in a way that the executives can appreciate it, right? Visualizations that show or beg a question, where should we be going, right?
Yep. Cool.
Yeah, my takeaway of the book is it I don't know if it's strong enough to call it a reference map, but there's guidance in there that you can use to apply EA as a practice in your organization.
Cool. I'm looking forward to the second book.
Oh my
and
God.
Also, we'll be able to see you guys, I think at
March?
the conference, right?
Yeah.
In March.
Yeah, it's like two things actually in March. One is we have you on a webinar.
Yeah.
Which will have some more slides, potentially some of the data visualizations and stories along with that. So
it's going to be on architecture use. Yeah, that's our emphasis. Yeah.
That'd be great.
So if you haven't done so, like who's ever listening into that, please sign up, or we highly recommend signing up for that webinar. And if you are on the East Coast, DC area, in March 21st or something like that, you can also see Anthony and Russ live on stage in Reston, Virginia, at the Business Architecture Guild Summit. We are very much looking forward to seeing you there in person.
Same here.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, and we'll see you
Oh,
on your webinar.
our pleasure.
Yeah, thank you
Okay.
for having
Our
us, but
pleasure.
not
Thank you.
just having us, for doing this, right? This is so important. It really is.
Ah, thank you. We think so.
Yeah, it's very nice. Thank you.
It is important to get to know, like, or push also EA a little bit more out, and
Yeah.
make people aware of it, and connect also the community. And I think it's very
Yeah.
great way to do so. So, but we're happy about the feedback. If anybody else watching this has feedback as well, or wants to say something, just
Yep.
connect us on LinkedIn, or give us a shout out somewhere, so you know how to find us.
Okay. Bye, guys. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.